Sounds good. All right.
It's like came through.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, December 11th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson. Is not present. Excused.
You did.
Commissioner Sidney Bremer. Present. Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky.
Present.
And Commissioner Michael Paradek.
Present.
Moving on to the approval of the agenda for the December 11th, 2023 meeting of the Plan Commission.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Paradek, motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Commissioner Paradek. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to approval of the minutes from the November 13th, 2023 meeting of the Plan Commission.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Commissioner Paradek. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then moving on to regular business. Starting with item number 1, consideration with possible action on the request by Military Avenue Inc. to approve their 2024 Business Improvement District Operating Plan.
I can help out with that. So to give you some background real quick, each year, the city of Green Bay's business improvement districts are required to submit their annual operating plans to the Plan Commission for review and approval. The attached 2024 Military Avenue Bid Operating Plan has been approved by both their board and reviewed by the city's attorney. And those documents are included in your packet. We do have the.
I didn't see it. I didn't know.
In case you have any questions.
Oh, I didn't know if you had a presentation or, go ahead. You absolutely don't have to say anything.
But
if
you
don't
also
want to.
can.
But you also can if you want to. It's up to you.
I will be extremely quick. I know you guys have a lengthy meeting and I appreciate you putting us up in front. The operating plans are pretty similar every year. There's just like one section that changes, which is the proposed activities and the budget. I guess that's 2 sections. NFL draft coming, of course, we budgeted some in that area. Not sure what that looks like yet, but we just wanted to set some money aside to make sure we're prepared for that. And then because of Sears being gone and the changes in the parking lot, my board in a small group has agreed to look at doing a more permanent site instead of trying to find where we're going to be every year. And then it could potentially be a full-time winter and summer market space. So those are the 2 things we kind of set some money aside to do more research on. With the tax assessments, we did see an increase of about $8,000 close to $9,000. And we really don't have too bad for delinquent payments. I always deduct 2 to 4% in case people don't pay, but we now have some money that we sit on each year, so we're not reliant on the full bid amount going year from year. Staffing, I really need help. I'm desperate, and it's hard to find people to help. So if anyone knows of anyone looking for a part-time job, that'd be awesome. The other things we increased were the physical improvements. Basically, costs went up quite a bit in some areas. And then also more in advertising and marketing. And I think I handed out, our market has been super successful, our winter market. We have 2 locations on both sides of Skechers in the Green Bay Plaza. So probably about 47 vendors each week. And I'm sorry, the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Saturdays, not each week. So you come. Any questions? Sid, that's fun.
Yes, a quick one. You mentioned the NFL draft preparations. Are we to take the monument sign and the pole banners as a part of that? I didn't see an item here that identified it.
Absolutely. We can use the NFL logo. They have some restrictions on how we can use it. What we pair it with, I think, is the issue. But I definitely can do banners with NFL logo, and the sign is ours. So I think I can figure out how to put their logo on that sign as well and welcome them. That did come up as one of the assets of the area. It's definitely a joint effort from the cities, all around, and the Packers and the Visitor and Convention Bureau, Discover Green Bay. It's definitely a joint effort, and we're critical, our location, for parking if the Sears parking lot is still open, we talked about maybe a campsite. Or people could park an RV, you know, self-contained things. Because we're gonna be short of space. And the message was for me.
Yeah.
Any questions? There, was that quick? I set the tone now.
No, we appreciate it.
Jeff has to follow suit. Oh,
Sounds good.
Motion to approve the operating plan. Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Braddock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one, when is the next city council? Is there one this year yet? A city council next
19th.
Tuesday?
19.
Okay, all right. All right, moving on to item number 2, consideration with possible action on the request by On Broadway Inc. to approve their 2024 Business Improvement District operating plan.
And Brian is online, but Brian Johnson, the director, is online if he wants to speak.
Do we want a presentation? Do we want him to speak?
Only if he wishes to.
You guys are all looking very expectantly at the TV.
I don't know if he
screen, so-
knows.
Brian?
Brian? Did you want to say anything about the On Broadway operating plan? He's moved
Yeah,
on.
he might be doing something else.
He didn't think we'd get to him in 6
Right,
minutes.
no. not- Seven, no, back on it.
Motion to approve this.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Braddock, second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then moving on to item number 3. Consideration with possible action on the request by Downtown Green Bay Inc. to approve their 2024 Business Improvement District operating plan.
That would be me. Hi,
Aye.
my name is Alyssa. I am the admin manager for Downtown Green Bay. Jeff had a school board meeting, so he was unable to attend tonight and asked me to stand in his place. Much like what Leah said, it's very boilerplate. Just a few changes, not too much. We are, along with her lines too, working through different draft options and scenarios. We did not allocate any of our bid dollars for the draft, and any of the scenarios that we've been thinking of for approaching 2025 in 2024. But for Downtown Green Bay, our budget is within $500 of what it was last year, so it really doesn't change very much. All of our events that we have are funded by private donors or contributors or sponsors. So really, our bid dollars go just to all of our operating costs that we need to have for the bid, but also our planters and all of our upkeep and that sort of thing. So we do, of course, much like Leah and On Broadway, we do have the events though. We just had our winter market, a holiday market this weekend, and it was very successful with over 2,000 people attending. So there's definitely an appetite for that. So I'm super happy for Leah that it's going so well for her. And so really, like I said, really boilerplate. I don't know if you guys have it all in front of you. If there's any questions you might have with the operating plan, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Otherwise, there's also, once this is voted on, there's also Old Main that I can speak to as well.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. And any questions for?
Motion to approve this submitted. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Braddock, a second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to item number 4, which is consideration with possible action on the request by Old Main Street Inc. to approve their 2024 Business Improvement District Operating Plan.
And much like it is for downtown Green Bay, Old Main Street, the difference between Old Main Street and DGBI, is that for our planters, we do actually get private donations for all of those. So that looks a little bit different in that budget. So if you're kind of comparing them, it is a little bit different. One thing to note for both of the bids is that, we were granted a ARPA grant, or approved for an ARPA grant, for an urban planner. We have contracted with ISG. And so that is, that money, nothing is coming out of our bid dollars for that, because it is that grant that we did, get approval on. But certainly it is in conjunction with On Broadway, Old Main Street, and downtown Green Bay. So again, no bid dollars, but definitely a lot of different improvements and updates with each bid. So it's something to really look forward to, working with the city, working with our staff and Brian with his staff to be able to push forward some really cool initiatives, in time for the draft. So if there's ever a time for us to make some big changes, it's truly right now with those dollars. So very fortunate to get that ARPA grant funded, funding that urban planner. But again, Old Main, the boilerplate, I don't want to take up too much of your time, really just talking about how we market, we market each bid, because they're so different, we market them different, maybe different venues, but also with events, really trying to stick with our focus of increasing awareness of the downtown district. So if there's anything that stands out on the Old Main operating plan, I'm happy to speak to it or to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions for Alyssa?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Commissioner Braddock to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will go forward to City Council for December 19th. Moving on to item number 5, which is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information on this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We will now open the public hearing on item number 3. Public hearing on a request to rezone 1409 Veldt Avenue from CI General Commercial District and RI Low Density Residential District to R3 Very Density Residential District, submitted by Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I'll give a quick overview. So the property itself is located here on the corner of North Locust Street and Bell. Let me step back 1 second. I know this will save time later.
Appreciate that.
So in June of 2017, Stantec and Tangible were hired to, it was actually 2015, 2016, to do a Veldt Avenue area redevelopment plan. And that is what this document is. You're going to see a lot of excerpts throughout the presentations on all the Veldt rezone requests. So that was adopted in 2017. And it kind of just sat there. We redid the road. A lot of the actions that were in this plan were action items and proactive action items. So one would be proactive rezoning. It's not something the city does often. We usually wait for the property owners to come to us. But in this scenario, if you remember a few years ago, we had a salvage yard that came in, did not meet the plan whatsoever, but the zoning had never changed. So following that, we have received multiple other, if you notice now that that junkyard is no longer in that site, but warehousing is going up there. Again, the industrial zoning. So Alder Stoyer, who is here, put in a communication probably 6 months or so ago, saying, hey, take a look at that belt plan and let's hit some of the items. So kudos to the Alder. This is a proactive rezoning. There are no projects on any of these sites being proposed at this time. This would be to proactively rezone it to match the plan and to potentially avert a brand new incompatible land use from being developed. So with that said, this is the first site. It's on the corner of Belt and North Locust. It's about 3.6 acres. And if you can go to the next one, this is what it looks like on the ground. There used to be a greenhouse and a nursery here. There is still a single family home on the site, on the property itself, sort of in the middle. And it is rented out. The current zoning on the property is C1 general commercial on the north, and then R1 low density residential on the south, sort of splitting it right in half. Actually, if you can jump back one quick, if you look across the street, it's a general industrial zoning. You have an R3 multifamily to the west, which is actually the cemetery. And then along the frontage of Bell, generally commercial, with lower densities to the south. In this scenario, I do want to point out that these are all residential units on this block. Which leads partially to the recommendation that came into the plan. Now, next one. So this is what really is in our comp plan now. This is an excerpt from the Belt Avenue plan. You're gonna see it in a bunch of the different slides. We have 6 sites, I think, that we're doing tonight. This was considered transformative site number 2. And in the plan itself, there'll be 5 to 10 pages of background data on where these recommendations came from. But it comes through a compatibility for land uses. The 2 most compatible are a multifamily residential land use or a mixed use, which is, it can either be vertical, so you have commercial on the ground floor housing above, or horizontal, where you may have commercial in one spot and multifamily residential in another spot. And then they throw a couple concept plans in here. Again, nobody is proposing these. These were the consultants in 2017 drafting something up. This one had apartment buildings with some garages to the south and apartments up along Belt. I think they had said about 70 units there, 2 to 3 stories. And in this one, it had townhouse development. So it was more some single families, 2 or 3 attached together with the garages in the back. Those again were just concept plans themselves. But they wanted to demonstrate what could happen with that multifamily, which was the most desirable. Mixed use would look much like this, except you'd probably have commercial here on the frontage of Belt. So with that, I will leave it there. Here. Oh, I do want to point out, I got 2 calls. One is from the property owner. They may or may not be here or be online, I'm not sure, but one was from the property owner. They didn't have any issue with changing the R1 to an R3, but they wanted to leave their options open along the frontage, leaving it C1. You may hear that from property owners throughout. When you do proactive rezonings, they typically don't want anything changed. To leave their options open again. Our fear is you get an incompatible use on there. And in this case, if the use takes up half of that lot, the other half is not really very big to put in a suitable multifamily in this area, because it wouldn't be really tall. It would probably be, limited to 3 stories and need more land area. So that was the landowner. The second, I got a message. He had asked me to read it. So I will during the public hearing. We have lived at 1256 North Locust Street for 48 years. We have enjoyed the natural beauty of the view across the street from us. This has included seeing wild turkeys, deer, blue heron, geese, and ducks. We would be devastated to have this all ruined with apartments. It would be degrading to the neighborhood and reduce our property values. Please consider enhancing the site rather than degrading it. Sincerely, Jerry and Colette Sinkowitz. At 1256 North Locust. So those were the 2 calls I had prior.
All right. That's fine. All right, with this public hearing now, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Is there any wish?
I just know it's on your, when you had the sketch of the lots.
Sir,
that
you
the-
you can step to the podium, please, and state your name.
Name and address.
Record, please.
I'm David Bay, I live at 1243 North Locust.
You can pop it.
Get the map.
But this is the public hearing too. That's
Just so
okay.
you understand what he's talking about.
Right. This one?
With the red, yeah, that,
This one.
Uh,
This one, yeah.
okay, the gray in the back. Designates. That was designated for road, but that was taken off.
Correct.
Leaf, is that what?
That would revert to the R1 zoning, same as the front lot.
Yeah, okay,
Map just wasn't updated. That
yeah,
used to
the
be a
map
roadway.
wasn't updated, right, and that's what they told, I just bought that lot in back of my house
Okay.
this summer. And they. And part of the stipulation was that. I was gonna buy it if they were gonna put a road in it. And the city said, well, no, we're taking it off, and then I have all the papers showing that. It's been vacated, the road, but I was just noticing that. And then they also said that the property owner on the Vulcan side. Gets that all that land, the 60 feet of road. Because. If there would have been a road in it, from what I understood was that. The property owner on the Vulcan side would have had to pay for. The graveyard wouldn't pay any of that. That's why the property owner gets that land back. If you're familiar with that.
Yeah, but- so this is a public hearing only for you to
So
speak.
you
You
can
can't really, I can answer your questions after the meeting or tomorrow or something.
Oh, okay.
I can't really, I have answers for you.
Okay, very good, very good.
I'll get you.
I'm good. The house is, okay. Yeah, the commercial on Velp. Sounds good. If it's not a noise making type thing, if you know, that's. I'm good. I'm pretty good with what you had there. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item number 6. Consideration with possible action on a request to rezone 1409 Velp Avenue from C1 General Commercial District and R1 Low Density Residential District to R3 Varied Density Residential District submitted by Community and Economic Development.
And staff is recommending approval of the rezone from C1 and the R1 to the R3.
And this is more compatible with what's in the Velp Avenue plan versus what the homeowner was discussing as far as the C1.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Mixed use was also an option, and if that would be the case, we would either do a PUD to do the mixed use or find an appropriate zoning for that at that time.
Or if something came forward, they could come back here too,
Exactly.
so that's obviously an option,
Yeah.
but, okay.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Braddock, second by Commissioner Vinsky. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that will move forward in City Council for December 19th. Moving on to item number 7, which is a public hearing, and this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We will now open the public hearing on item number 7. Public hearing on a request to rezone 1046 Gray Court and 1052 Velp Avenue from LI Light Industrial and GI General Industrial Districts to C2 Highway Commercial District submitted by Community and Economic Development.
Like that. Jefferson. So this is the site itself. It is actually, this is turn to the side. So north is this way. And south is this way. That's Velp running like this. So the site itself, is at the corner of Atkinson, which runs up to Highway 43, and Belp Avenue, right at the roundabout. Uses on the site right now are a used vehicle lot on the south and a major, telecommunication hub on the north. You wanna jump to the next one? So this is the zoning. You can see the gray with the white is a general industrial zoning. The gray with the black is a light industrial zoning. Again, leftover zoning from an era where this was heavy industrial. Yeah, the uses, the black box use that you see in there is actually a brand new apartment building that came in, apartment complex campus. That came in a few years ago. Gas station across the street, a mix of some housing and some commercial. And this is the excerpt from the Belp Avenue plan. This is transformative site 4B. It recommends commercial, mixed use, and industrial as the three most compatible uses. Pardon me? Yeah. Again, consultants put in some plans together to make some recommendations. I think some of the key points you're gonna notice on these plans, they focus pretty far south. That blue area is generally wetlands and floodplains. So it is difficult to develop there. They put a concept of a big box retailer. Code Foods in 2017, and the other would be a smaller retailer with some outlets out front, which is probably more realistic in today's climate. I think the big thing to point out with these two properties, one is about 4.5 acres, one is about 2 acres. Is that the current existing uses of the telecommunications facility and the vehicle sales lot are both permitted uses in the C2 district. Staff, these plans just basically say commercial. Staff interprets that in the area that it is. Belp Avenue is a transit corridor. If this were downtown, we would not be recommending a C2. But in this case, C2 uses would be more permitted. Some of the things different in C2 than C1 would be auto sales, gas stations, restaurants with drive-throughs by right, more vehicle oriented type uses than our general C1. So again, following the Belp Avenue plan, we are coming forward with a proposal to rezone the two properties.
All right, and now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Yes. If you could unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, please. Or if someone could unmute him, that would be, there we go.
You're muted right now.
We can't hear you. We can't unmute. Oh, we just asked. Oh, I see. Oh.
James, try holding the space bar down before you talk. No,
Mm-mm.
it's not working. There should be,
Something happened for a second. Oh, no.
Okay, can you hear me now?
yeah.
I'm here on 2 items, but the item that you just brought up, I'm 1013 Belp Avenue. I'm James Liberg. Me and my friend Dale Happy own this house. Put a lot of money into it so far, but I would definitely approve this, what you're proposing here. A grocery store or something along that nature in this area would be a big plus. I have sciatica, I'm on cyclobenzaprine, I'm a disabled veteran.
Oh, how do you do that?
Oh, it just blocked out, I'm sorry. But anyhow, I would definitely be approved of this because that puts me in walking distance. Everywhere I gotta go, I take the city bus and I thank God for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this item is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 8. consideration with possible action on a request to rezone 1046 Great Court and 1052 Belt Avenue from LI Light Industrial and GI General Industrial Districts to C2 Highway Commercial District submitted by Community and Economic Development.
They are on there.
No, I don't know what he's. over there.
Staff is recommending approval of the rezone from light industrial and general industrial to highway commercial.
You approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vinci, second by Commissioner Braddock. Any further discussion?
Just a point of clarification, the one public comment about the grocery store, that's just a concept potential, that's nothing.
Correct.
Confirms that the grocery store is actually going.
All right, we'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. And then we'll move on to item number 9, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address. Whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we are now opening the public hearing on item number 9, public hearing on the request to rezone property at 1218 Velp Avenue, the southern 180 feet of property at 1212 Velp Avenue, and the southern 160 feet of property at 1156 Velp Avenue from General Industrial District to Highway Commercial District, submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an aerial image showing the area in question. On the left-hand side of the screen, that's one parcel, and that whole parcel we're proposing to be rezoned to C2. And then the next parcel is owned by Allwin Manufacturing. Oh, let me go back to the other parcel. The history with this is it's currently the roof is collapsed on it, and it's slated to be raised by the city of Green Bay. There's some, if Wendy were here, she could probably talk the rest of the night on all of the background with it as far as ownership. But that site will probably end up being vacant in the and then in the Velp Avenue plan, they actually kind of showed it as like a really cool spot for like a tap house or tap room, just because of the historic nature of the structure. And then as you go to the east is Allwin Manufacturing. On that particular site, we're just looking at the southern 180 feet. So 180 feet back from Velp. Those spaces apparently aren't occupied right now with any uses, but the spaces at the back side of the building are currently being utilized. So we didn't want to touch that. We're kind of focusing on that front area. And then the site, as we continue to go east, is vacant right now. And then there's mini warehousing being built on the back end of that parcel, but we're not gonna touch that. We're just touching that front piece, which actually has had a certified survey map has gone through review by the city and has been approved. It just hasn't been recorded yet. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing they're probably waiting for a buyer for that parcel before recording it. Next slide. So then this is just an air photo showing the area that would be affected by rezoning. This is the future land use. As you can see, it does show commercial. And then the areas to the rear are industrial. And then with the zoning, that area is all zoned general industrial. On the corner though, there is currently some existing highway commercial, so. Even though we're just gonna rezone highway commercial over the top of it, but then that whole frontage would all be highway commercial. You have a general commercial across the street, but a lot of that, just like David's scenario, it is still housing. And then this is some information from this is transformative site number 3, the potential uses. And you can see in the greatest opportunity, they really did want to utilize a lot of the historic nature of the structures. But it leans towards commercial and mixed use industrial uses, so we're not looking at residential on these parcels at all. We did, as part of our outreach, we did try to contact, and all of these rezonings reach out to the property owners to let them know about this ahead of time and to get some feedback. I did not hear from, the only property owner I heard from was the property owner of the Alwyn building, and so we had some really good discussions about them. Didn't really seem to get any opposition to it, maybe adjusting it just to accommodate what portions of the building are used.
Thank you very much. All right, now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Is there anyone looking to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item number 10. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone property at 1218 Belt Avenue, the southern 180 feet of property at 1212 Belt Avenue, and the southern 160 feet of property at 1156 Belt Avenue from General Industrial District to Highway Commercial District, submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
So our recommendation is approval of the request to rezone from general industrial to highway. And a lot of it goes back to David's comment previously too about highway corridor, highway audit oriented uses for this stretch.
So I guess question on that, this will be a split zoning on parcels, we're creating a split zoning.
Correct.
We have another coming up that will also have a split. This is being done to accommodate the existing uses there, to not try to push any of the existing uses out of compliance or out of their homes at this time.
Okay.
We'll probably come through and clean up the whole parcels once redevelopment occurs.
And it would hopefully, even with the one parcel, there is a certified survey map on that has been prepared. So that front lot shouldn't be split zoned
Once that all.
for much longer.
Gotcha.
It would really just
Okay.
be that Alwyn building is kind of the anomaly here. Just due to the expansions over the years, I
I
guess.
just wanted that on the record, so 50 years from now, when it doesn't. We can look back and be like,
Right, exactly.
Wow, that-
And that is not typical. We generally don't like to split zone properties, but again, it's a protective measure in this case.
and there's a lot of stuff in the works, so.
Yeah. Another question for staff is. Was now warehousing and small scale production, is that permitted in the C2?
Warehousing.
Light and Josh, there's limited production, I believe.
With the CUP. Yeah, so you could do limited production with conditional use permits.
But not.
So it's come back.
The fear would be, I think it's really exciting opportunity there, especially with like a brewery type thing, something active for people, and I would hate to just have like fill the rest of it with. Warehousing and storage units.
Yeah, the C2 would not allow that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ha. Motion by Commissioner Bradburn, a second by Commissioner Braddock. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Alright.
Any opposed? All right, that will move forward then to city council for December 19th. Moving on to item number 11, which is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda item. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or providing information. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We will now open the public hearing on item number 11. Public hearing on the request to rezone the front 200 feet of 1562 Velp Avenue from General Industry District to Highway Commercial District, submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Chair. This parcel is right at the end of the municipal boundary. This is the Village of Howard here, Velp Avenue and Military Avenue. So as you can see, quite a large parcel and does have frontage on 3 sides. This is part of the transformative sites within the Velp Avenue plan. It's also one of the main entryways into the city. So current future land use is calling for commercial over the entirety of the site. And the current zoning is GI, general industry, over the entirety of the site right now. Again, going over why we're proposing some split zoning here. This parcel is one large parcel. There is currently some development happening on the rear of the parcel for storage facilities. It's been contained, no pun intended, there are storage containers, literally, to the rear part of the parcel, with the understanding that the front was always going to be reserved for some sort of a commercial development. If you might recall, there was an old strip mall here, I think a gas station at one point. There are some environmental concerns with development. So we're trying to be mindful of that while still allowing for the current property owner to get some development out of here with those storage units. So looking at the Velp plan, this is kind of the way here. So we can look at that suitability table here, again, calling for some industrial uses, mixed use office retail, but mostly leaning towards commercial, especially with this being a gateway and the 2 major corridors intersectioning. It's a really good opportunity for some C2 zoning. The reason that we are not proposing the entire parcel go to C2 is again to allow the current property owner some opportunity to do some industrial development there. That is supported within the Velp plan. We do believe that the front portion should be eventually parceled off and developed for commercial uses, which are all shown here. A lot of variety in what they're showing. You could do a larger store with something maybe closer to the front. At one point, there's talks about a gas station going back in here. You can see some smaller buildings here. There's a lot of options for the site. It's pretty large. So we're trying to keep it as flexible as possible for that current property owner. As noted in our staff report, they are opposed to the rezoning of the whole parcel, or I'm sorry, the front of the parcel, citing some concerns about the environmental reviews not coming back yet. And they don't really know what the site's going to look like and how they'll be able to market it. But we do still stand that the C2 zoning district is appropriate based on all this background information. And also because of the flexibility in the C2 district, especially if there are environmental concerns, there's a lot that can be capped and then reused for heavy commercial use versus retaining it for industrial is really a lost opportunity on this corridor, especially for the entrance onto the city on that side. So that is all I have for that.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak?
Hi, this is Mark Arnott. I'm not a resident of Green Bay. I'm speaking on behalf of Toy Box Storage LLC, which is the owner of this parcel. And I submitted on behalf of the owner a letter to Ms. Hummel and the online form just shortly before the meeting started. So I'm not sure if those came through or not.
I don't think so, but the letter was submitted to the commissioners in their packet, but we did not get the online submission before this.
Okay, there was another letter, sorry, that, yeah, kind of continues on with what was said before in terms of the uncertainty regarding the environmental issues, the contamination from prior use in auto salvage. And there was also a phase 2 site plan that was submitted on October 10th to the city. And I don't believe the owner received any comments back on that site plan. From how I look at the site plan, the front 160 feet would be available for commercial or retail use in the future. But due to one of the environmental issues is possible vapor intrusion. So they really wanted to maintain flexibility and suggest holding off on the rezoning to, further figure out what's happening in terms of where the contamination is, what kind it is, how severe it is. And so they would ask that this be tabled until more of that can be figured out. And maybe the line can be adjusted, I guess, from 200 feet to 160, or, further discussions regarding that proposed site plan can be had. Thank you.
Can you please state your address for the record?
My personal address, or I'm here on behalf of Toy Box Storage LLC, which is it is at 1526 Velp Avenue. I personally live in New York City, but I don't think that's relevant. Do you want my address in New York?
Office.
Sorry, what?
Office, the office address.
Office,
it
yeah,
would-
the office address.
Sure. For the owner, that would be 810 Morris Avenue, Suite 101, Green Bay.
It's actually your address for the record.
Oh,
Office. The office address is fine.
well, I can give you 308 Eckford Street, 3G, Brooklyn, New York, 11222.
Thank you. Is
I
there-
guess I would just note, I saw that the submission for the online form says an hour and a half in advance for common council meetings, but it just says before the meeting for other meetings and on this agenda packet for this meeting. So if there is an earlier cutoff, it would just be nice to know when that is to be included. I wasn't planning on speaking. I was just gonna rely on the written submission, but I guess it was too late.
I'll talk to our IT department about that, about updating that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 12. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone the front 200 feet of 1562 Velp Avenue from General Industrial District to Highway Commercial District, submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of the request to go from GI to C2 in that front 200. I'm hoping that David, in the meantime, has pulled up that site plan maybe for me. Were you reading my mind?
I have put that together.
Okay.
So he
Um,
wasn't.
We certainly would not
Oh
be
my God.
opposed to a reduction in the size of that front setback, if it accommodates the site plan more accurately. 200 feet is just the normal that we go for a commercial site in depth, but if the site plan shows a different depth, staff certainly would not be opposed to a reduction. That's not right.
Let's show you the site plan itself is. It's just showing green. And then brown where it's storage units.
Okay.
The comments that came from planning at that site plan review were the review is not for any items identified as future. So they had showed a lot of things that said future, future, future. Another site plan will need to be submitted for those, resubmit site plan to a usable scale, provide impervious surface calculations, identify setbacks. Gravel surface is not permitted. I don't know if you want all these. The principal use of the site is self-storage.
This was like just a.
A little bit better one.
That one.
Building elevations must be submitted, curb cuts, and then there's a number of others.
So that's a site plan. And it's only,
Concept site.
that's with the 160 setback, is that what we're?
I don't think it's to scale, even tell me what. Maybe.
Yes, so these site plans that come in this way, so the site plan had to come in for the entire property to show the general industrial use on the north side of the site.
Mhm.
And then they come in, we review them, somebody, Dean is reviewing this one. And then they go back and forth until they're approved. I don't believe this one has been approved yet. But that's kind of where it is. A little background on the site as well is they have been required to do environmental testing, which is what they're doing right now, and he alluded to getting the results back from that.
Right.
If I can add to this, we're on the action item, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay. If I can add to that, whether it's contamination, C2 would not allow any residential uses either. And any contamination could be capped as effectively in a C2 zoning district as it could in an industrial zoning district.
Okay.
In my opinion.
So he had specifically called out the 160 versus we have it in our package as 200.
I see no harm in that. I think that's still enough space for a buildable lot for commercial use. I think the 200 is better, but, right. 'Cause, I mean, eventually we would hope this entire site would go commercial. That's what the recommendation is. The whole site would get redeveloped, but we understand that maybe many years down the road at this point.
You're gonna hear around 200 as a depth that's appropriate for commercial. If you think of 2 rows of parking and a drive aisle, you're already at about 75 feet.
Okay.
Not including a
A
setback.
building, right?
So you put a setback in of 15 or 20 feet. Half of that 200 is gone, and then you have a rear yard setback as well. So as you start shrinking the depth, it becomes less developable for most corporate users who want so much parking, so much building area. So the fear of narrowing it too much is you make it desirable for only very, very small uses. Like a Scooter's coffee shop or something like that. I mean, the owner can always come back. and
Right, I was gonna say, if
request-
we set it at 200, they could come back and request it to be smaller, I think, if
Or if you
needed.
set it at 160, they come back and request it to go to 2 as well, or whatever they need for commercial. We're just. Being safe. on our
Like
side.
big picture, 200 is better for what we're trying to do.
Right.
Which we're doing a proactive zoning, so why don't we try to work towards the proactive?
Right. So I'd make a motion to approve.
Second, yes.
I do have one question before we vote. The environmental concerns have come up in the materials that we were given from every one of these properties, and I presume that those concerns would be addressed at such points which we were considering actual proposals.
Oh, definitely. We have environmental studies done on how many sites throughout town.
Yeah, the
Especially-
Velp Avenue area plan was actually funded by an EPA.
Mhm.
Part of a brownfields work.
Look for it.
Yeah, yep, yeah, so we were prepared for this, vapor. Was the issue on this particular site that was discussed, and you know, there are mitigation measures for that, and yeah, a lot of the issues that we identify along Velp, so yeah, we're prepared to address that at the appropriate time.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure this was not the appropriate time.
No.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Commissioner Craddock. Any further discussion?
I will say that it helps that you're leaving that area that they currently have for storage. Yeah, I think it's very respectful to the property owner currently, and I think that makes sense. To leave it alone and to move forward with it, that's what I'm trying to do.
But also don't want storage on the front half of it. All right. All right, any further discussion? go ahead with the vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward to city council December 19th. Moving on to item number 13, which is a public hearing, and this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 13. Public hearing on the request to rezone 1006 Velp Avenue and 0 Atkinson Drive from General Industry District to Highway Commercial District, submitted by the Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Chair. This is the other half of the request that Dave brought through. So this is the last one, going from LI and GI to C2. This is the other side of that. So again, looking at Velp Avenue and Atkinson Drive, major gateway here leading to Highway 43, Velp Avenue being a highway on its own. So we have the parcels here. This tiny little diamond is that 0 Atkinson, that is city owned. It's left over. It's a remnant from the Velp reconstruction, but it is zoned GI. And then the rest of the parcel is the 1006 Velp Avenue, which is all the way back here, and then the frontage that I'm sure you've driven past a million times. So these are the 2 parcels that are up for consideration for this action. Future land use is showing commercial in this area, like the rest of the locations. Current zoning is a mixed bag. So the back of the site is currently zoned for GI. The front is light industrial, and then this has a little bit of C2 zoning over it already. None of this follows any parcel lines or any rhyme or reason. It's just kind of haphazardly thrown there. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of the LI up front was. From what I can tell, the vacant building used to be used for commercial sites. And then there's an existing used car sales on this portion of the parcel. So I'm guessing the C2 was to cover that. Not sure what the LI was for. And then GI is just the general base zoning for everything over here. So again, looking at the transformative sites, this was 4A. So that is everything that's kind of on the east side of Atkinson Drive. Some extend a little bit further past the roadway here. Most of them are just contained over the parcel that we're looking at. And again, we're looking at that, the suitability here. So it's showing that commercial is the most ideal, mixed use, of course, and then some industrial uses would be appropriate here as well. We're looking at this as again, another gateway, looking at Atkinson off of 43 Velp Avenue. All of these, I mean, there are a variety of options here, but you know, a grocery, some other smaller businesses that can be used for offices, some local commercial uses in here, office space, retail space. A lot of opportunity with this large site. The small parcel that is owned by the city would be in here. Eventually hoping that maybe we could combine that with the parcels because we don't need that. It's very tiny. And then, you know, be able to extend this past down the roadway here, Columbia, you know, because this goes all the way down through here. Emmett Street was in our meeting 2 meetings ago, or maybe the last meeting that was here to get this into residential. And then these parcels in the back are part of the next action item on the agenda. So kind of, it would take care of this whole area here to bring it into the compliance with the Velp Avenue plan. We did hear from the property owner for the larger parcel. Generally just looking for information about supportive. It doesn't change anything with the use there. C2 allows for car sales. There's a lot of good uses in C2 that would be appropriate for this location. So that's what we would be recommending for.
Thank you.
So you're gonna notice in the Velp plan, a lot of times it would say commercial and industrial. You get into the guts of it, it's industrial in the back along the tracks or along Donald Street or Donald Drive. So I just want to throw that in there because I just noticed that on industrial and then.
Yeah, not for Velp. Not
You're
for
right.
Heritage.
Right. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item?
My name is Arthur Gage. I own the property and the business on 980 Velp across Columbia Street from what you're proposing, and I wholeheartedly approve of that. I was on the steering committee for the Velp Avenue 5 years ago, so.
Thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing all this up.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 14. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 1006 Velp Avenue and 0 Atkinson Drive from General Industrial District to Highway Commercial District submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
Approval, please.
Motion to approve. I will second it.
Motion by Commissioner Craddock, second by Commissioner Vinsky. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say I appreciate people coming out that served on these committees and it's not, yeah, there's a lot of hard work that goes into this stuff, so I appreciate it.
And I would add to that, thanks to Alderman Stoyer for urging us to go forward with
That
this
was-
proactive.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I don't like to give them too much credit.
Yeah. All right. Go to the vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to item number 15, which is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information. We also ask you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 15. Public hearing on the request to rezone 0 Emmett Street and 0 Atkinson Street from General Industry District to Conservation District, submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Chair. So these are the last of the items for transformative site number 4. The parcel that is 0 Emmett is here where my cursor is, this parcel right here. And then the 0 Atkinson goes across Atkinson and then it extends all the way down through behind Emmett. So it's this entire area back here, not including this parcel here that is privately owned. And we didn't feel it was appropriate at this time to rezone that parcel.
Is there anything on that parcel currently?
Vacant. It is sized for a single family home, however, which the rest of this will tell you, this has been wet, it will be wet. I'm not sure this will ever not be wet. I actually didn't even know that water was a designation in our future land use map until this application, but it is, and that's what this blue is here. So between conservation and then the blue for water, that's on our future land use plan. The zoning right now is all GI. There is a set of railroad tracks, actually many sets of railroad tracks here, rail yard in the back. As you can see from transformative site 4A, all of this in the rear has just been designated for wetlands. So this wasn't part of anyone's development plans as far as the belt plan is concerned, our comprehensive plan. And then the city is the owner of the Emmett Street property and the CN is the owner of the Atkinson Street property. I did hear from a representative of theirs today, just wondering what would happen with this rezoning if, because part of their railroad track does go onto the property on Atkinson. I assured them that there wouldn't be any changes. They wouldn't be able to expand their use. They're not looking to expand the use in that direction anyway. So they didn't have any problems with the rezoning request here. This is mostly to make sure that this is protected and that if any development wanted to go in there, they would have to go through the rezoning process, which would have to show us that it's no longer wet. So that is that on here.
All right. We're in a public hearing right now, right?
Yeah.
There's been so many, I forget.
Yes.
All right, is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 16. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 0 Emmett Street and 0 Atkinson Street from General Industry District to Conservation District submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development.
Recommending approval of the rezoning.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Vice Chair Miller. I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Question about the lot that is sized for the residential lot. When will be the appropriate time for that then? So you said it's not time to do it right now.
I think we want to do outreach to the property owner to see if that's their expectation. So with the other ones, we kind of knew where they were heading with it or where we wanted to head with that one. I think that they bought it with the expectation they'd be able to put on a single family home. So I don't know if they plan to work with FEMA to either like build it out. I mean, it would be the only one on that side of the block, so I'd be kind of a sore thumb, but it is their discretion to do that. We just haven't heard from the property owner, so I think we just want to do a little bit more of a touch base with them before we bring that into conservancy as well. It feels kind of weird to do it to a private owner when it's honestly supposed to be a residential lot.
Right, the difference would be the other ones have uses associated with them. So C2 has a use, C1 has a use, conservation doesn't. Which is,
Which is the point of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
passive
Right.
recreation and stuff, but if you bought it with the idea you're gonna do something.
So would it be easier then for us to pass this tonight and then you, once you hear back from the property owner, and if their intention is to build, them to leave it alone? Or to wait on this until you talk to the property owner and do it all at once? How do you do it?
I think either way, doing it separately is the way to go, because if they wanted to build a single family home there, they would have to rezone it for that too, because that parcel is still zoned. R2. So it would be it would either be going to conservancy eventually if they don't want to do anything with it, or it would be having to do some sort of residential zoning, which would be kind of odd, but we'd have to discuss that at a staff level.
They still have to anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, if we got indication from the DNR or whoever that they're pulling back the wetland designation, we probably want you guys to look at the whole area.
Yeah.
Not just this.
Oh, yeah.
But from what we've heard,
Mhm.
it's staying wet, it's staying wetland, so.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on then to item number 17, which is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 17. Public hearing on a request to rezone 322 South Monroe Avenue, 326 South Monroe Avenue, 512 Moravian Street, 315 South Madison Street, 325 South Madison Street, and 333 South Madison Street from Office Residential District to Downtown District submitted by Community and Economic Development.
Thank you, Chair. So this is located, right next to downtown. So this is the entire campus area. However, they have many parcels associated with this, which is why you just had to read off 5 different addresses. This is showing our current zoning, which is that office residential. So as you can see here, the brown is representative of the downtown district. So this would be an extension of that downtown, kind of skipping over this park here, to extend our downtown district here. Future land use does show this area for downtown, so that is a good move according to our comprehensive plan. This was brought to our attention at the request of the church. They were looking at doing some work on site. A rezoning was needed in order to accommodate some of that work. In looking at it, usually when we're doing these proactive rezonings on churches or religious institutions, we go PI. However, this has a very high chance for redevelopment, if not the whole parcel, some of the parcels that are associated with it. So we wanted to make sure that that background zoning was downtown, because that does allow for the religious institution, but also allows for development if they do want to parcel off some of the property that they have. So that is that.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item number 18, consideration with possible action on a request to rezone 322 South Monroe Avenue, 326 South Monroe Avenue, 512 Moravian Street, 315 South Madison Street, 325 South Madison Street, and 333 South Madison Street from office residential district to downtown district, submitted by Community and Economic Development.
Thank you. We are recommending approval to go to the D1 district.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Daniels and a second by Commissioner Paradic. Any further discussion?
Let's keep it score.
Tallies. All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then moving on, right, moving on to item number 19, which is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted, public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Planning Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information on this matter. And we also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked but will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Planning Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 19. Public hearing on a request to create a planned unit development for the creation of a mixed-use neighborhood at the JBS redevelopment site located at the 1300 block of Guns Road, submitted by Community and Economic Development on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So this, hopefully you've heard about this, not just from us, but in the environment as well, in the world. This is a large lot. It ends up being about 26 acres on the far east side of the city, sort of in between Guns Road and Lime Kiln. This was property that was donated to the city several years ago by JBS Foods, along with a large amount of, I guess that's relative, but an amount of money as well, requesting the city put out some plans for housing development and a park, a signature park. Sounds kind of strange, but it is not that uncommon nowadays for people who are dying for talent or employees. Employees, and they don't have any housing. So in this scenario, just from the background, JBS does bus a lot of employees from Appleton and back every day, and from other areas of the state. So this is the site itself. You can kind of see to the north, you have Imperial Pride neighborhood. And you can see that it looks sort of like the dog bone kind of thing. You have a Walmart on the east, on the other side of Guns Road. There's a few single families on Gun Road. In the gray area is the Village of Bellevue. The school district, I think it's their food service building. It is also there to the north. And then to the west, you have the Kroc Center. The Salvation Army, who also owns the Kroc Center, owns the property to the north. And then further west from that is actually JBS meat. And then to the south is the Village of Bellevue. There's a mix of industrial and some residential in there as well. This is just an aerial showing you what it looks like again. This is the future land use. It does show this area as industrial in the future land use plan, as I explained in the staff report. We were going to go through with a comp plan amendment at the same time. You don't need to do that with a planned unit development. We are going to probably be coming back and cleaning those up with the comp plan amendment. So the PUD setting on the site will take control of that. The zoning is also general or light, light industrial, general industrial. And then the green areas that you see there are public institutional, that would be the Proc Center itself, surrounding zoning, you have multifamily to the north. I can tell you Bellevue zoning to the east is commercial, it does have a Walmart, and, I'm not sure what their zoning is to the south. If you wanna zoom, so this started a couple of years ago with that donation. There's been a lot of public outreach. There was a group of 8 individuals from the city that went to New York on a think tank for this project. I'm working with Harvard and Bloomberg. And kind of came up with a lot of recommendations. So these are some excerpts out of that concept plan, which I included in your packet. It kind of gives a timeline going from March to August of all the public outreach. I won't go through all of it. But what kind of came out of it was this concept plan. So you can kind of see that site again. That same site you're looking at. It shows land uses in here, and I'm gonna get to those in a second, but for transportation, it's basically trying to connect Guns Road up to Imperial, giving Imperial another route out, and doing an east-west connection. May not look straight like this, but an east-west connection from Lime Kiln to Guns to try to open up this neighborhood. If you're familiar with Imperial Pride, it has one entrance way in, basically, and then it's kind of blocked off from the rest of the community. This would help to open that up. Also working with some of the adjoining property owners to see what we can do on these sites. But this PUD is primarily for, it is only for this site. We can go to the next one. I'll just give you some of the elements that came out of it. Obviously, housing, big element. Went through many design charrettes and a bunch of stakeholder meetings. They basically came up with 3 concepts of housing they'd like to see in this area: multifamily, townhomes, and single family detached. There was also a little bit of discussion with people wanting some duplexes, but not side by sides. So these are just some examples that came out of some of the charrettes that they had. And this is just conceptual on where they could potentially lay out. If you go to the next one. Other elements to this were parks. So in this one, we have several parks. This is what's called the Grand Boulevard. So when you look at the plan, coming in off of Guns, the road splits in boulevards. There's about 60 to 70 feet in between, which people think, well, it's not that large. It's as big as some residential lots, so it's pretty big. It's very equivalent to what you'd see out at Lake Titletown, the new development out there. And this area is going to be heavily programmed for outdoor use, passive, mainly passive, inside that boulevard. So kind of unique. When you look at your plan unit development, you'll see there's certain things on here like homes to the south or the townhomes have to butt right up to the roadway to the north, which is a multifamily site, would butt up right to that roadway, creating this this brand new neighborhood. What we kind of call it is an innovative neighborhood. It's like it'll be a new approach to designing neighborhoods. We usually don't get 25 acres. We can do that with. You can jump to the next one, please. I'm trying to be a cognizant of the time as well. At the end of that boulevard, there is an active community park. So that's where you're going to get a lot of your playground equipment and that kind of stuff. Kids can run around and be in a protected space. To the south of that is going to be a community building, which we call the barn, because it's going to double up as a barn. So there'll be community space in there, education rooms, community rooms, I think a commercial kitchen potentially, and also some barn uses. Sounds odd, but all of the property to the west is going to be in-ground farming, an urban farm, which is also kind of an innovative concept that can not only be for, you're not just leasing it out to a farmer, but you could lease it out to owners of these properties. And then with the kitchen and that kind of stuff, kind of do your ground up building of business. So, just think of the person you see at the farmer's market could easily want to live here so they can produce their product and then bring it to market. So those were kind of the key elements that were not housing related. In your package, you're going to see, I did not put it on the screen, but you're going to see sort of this colored block map as well. And in the colored block map, each block in the PUD is designated as for different land uses. And you're going to see they're going to have different setbacks as well, if you haven't seen them already. So to try to create that urban feel and more of that neighborhood presence where people kind of think Jane Jacobs, people walk around, they can see each other, they can talk to each other. And so that is really the goal for this PUD. It is a little bit unique in that about 2.5 of the acreage is actually in the village of Bellevue. City of Green Bay Redevelopment Authority owns it, but it's in the village. We brought this to the Plan Commission about 3 weeks ago. A little PUD, they call it a PVD, for just that 2.5 acres. That was recommended for approval unanimously with 3 of their 5 village board members there. I'll be going there on Wednesday. So they kind of got the pitch for all the city stuff, and then their little piece, which only allows single families or upper lower duplexes. So maybe they were happy for that. But a lot of the comments that came out of that Plan Commission were, we love that we're working together. We like that we're getting this thing done without fighting. There will be a lot of shared services, so there's probably gonna be shared water service. Bellevue might be providing the water, the city might be providing the police. All that is kind of getting worked out. It is kind of a strange area, like if you noticed on the map, parking lot for Walmart is in the city, the store is in the village. So it's a really strange municipal boundary over there. But with that said, I guess that's all I will say.
Oh, great. All right, public hearing, all right. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item. Consideration with possible action on a request to create a planned unit development for the creation of a mixed-use neighborhood of the JBS redevelopment site located at the 1300 block of Guns Road, submitted by Community and Economic Development on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Green Bay property owner.
And we are recommending approval of the planned unit development with one condition, that the council adopt it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Platek, second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? Oh my God. I'm sorry.
It's
wait.
fine.
My only
Oh.
question about the entire
I was-
concept
okay.
plan is why there isn't biking along the boulevard.
All the roads in there will be multimodal, so they'll be biking along the boulevard. They'll be biking along the public, private streets. Yeah, these plans were very, very rough. They're final concepts. Right now, the city retained Grade, which is an engineering and planning firm. And they are actually designing the physical layout of all the roads. So the concept is the city would do it in kind of 2 phases. We would build the roads, build the parks, and then send out requests for proposals for the housing elements. But yeah, they're very multimodal in there.
Oh, I love the concept.
I'll say that I'm in favor of it as well. I'll just say, for the record, I'm disappointed. There was going to be some comprehensive engagement with across the city with a big project like this with the neighborhood associations. And we didn't see that happen. So I was disappointed not to see that type of engagement, especially on something that huge for the city and for neighborhood associations who are actually doing the work of building neighborhoods and communities. So I hope that when we do the comprehensive plan, that that's something that's corrected.
And there's still. Before the housing element's built.
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? All right, I'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to item number 21, which is my last public hearing of the night. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you combine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked but will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And I'll open the public hearing on item number 21. Public hearing on a request to amend the Green Bay 2022 Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan to include recommendations of the 2020 Green Bay Area Housing Market Study.
Thank you, Chair. So, yes, in 2019, we hired a firm to do a housing market study. It actually happened to be great. For whatever reason, right, company, which was finished in 2020. Part of that, a very large document, so I didn't include it all. I only included the executive summary. There's like 400 pages or something.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But in that plan, it put together what they call is the toolbox to try to close the gap to improve housing options in the city. And I think that's exactly how they had phrased it. So that kind of has been sitting out there. We've had it on our radar to do some text amendments, and there'll be more coming. But there was an impetus. So if you've read anything about the state government allocating about $300 million for affordable housing tasks, one of the items that make you eligible is a change to your housing component of your comp plan.
Okay.
We change the comp plan every year. You get your, you get the land use changes, all those are eligible. Since I have been here, and actually for a long, long time, I have not seen Green Bay actually go into the text and change the text of the comp plan itself. We changed the land use stuff and little tweaks here and there, but not a big comprehensive rewrite or addition. So that is really the super driving force for us to get that to change, but also we're implementing those recommendations of the housing study already. It went through council, they accepted it. It's a document that we use, getting more formal now. So if you go to this is what that section looks like. So you see it. So I put them in big bold letters to go fast because I knew this was gonna be the end and you guys are gonna be giving me that eye. So there were there were a lot more than 7 recommendations out of the housing study. Some of them are not appropriate for the comp plan. Some city government felt were not appropriate for our city. But these 7 were felt to be really necessary. So the first one is waiving or reducing fees for affordable housing projects. Not really a planning type of thing, but comp plan is more than a planning document. It's a document for the city. Streamlining review processes for affordable housing, so you go to the top of the list or some other, these aren't all detailed out in our minds yet, but you've heard this one many, many times, and we actually have a code roughly drafted for accessory dwelling units, make them by right in appropriate zoning districts. Create an affordable housing trust fund. And when you look at that housing study, which is online, they'll give you much more detail on it. That's basically a fund, general purpose fund to use for affordable housing project. Whether that we bond for it or find some other housing monies. We kind of use our TIF extensions for that purpose right now. But that would be actually setting that trust fund up. Using tax increment financing for infrastructure related to housing. TIFs are generally not housing related or residential related unless they're in mixed use. But infrastructure leading to them for back and forth from housing to the business is eligible. So it pulls that out. Cottage court housing is a development type. I have found 3 in Green Bay so far. I live right next to one. So that's sort of where you would come into a development. Typically in the old days, it was a footpath. And then you had a garden in the center and houses around this center. So a cottage court. Nowadays, they're typically a driveway with a parking lot in the middle and housing around, which is again like the one next to me. And that's what it turned into. But that's a housing type that we would allow through planned unit developments. We do now as well, but this explores ways to encourage them and actually find sites where they could go. And then the last, maybe controversial, we're bringing this forward. That's a rural holding district. We have a rural residential district right now. It allows you to build a house on a 10-acre lot or split off an old farmhouse from a 10-acre lot or from a larger lot. The housing report said that is a sprawl regulation, and you shouldn't allow any new housing, whether it's 10 or 20 acres until they have services. So that may become a factor later with people thinking they want to build on their, the 10-acre lot or the 12-acre lot. But it's something that came in there and it makes a lot of sense. Out west, and Matt probably knows more about this, Oregon used to have growth boundaries. I don't know if they still do, where they don't allow you to develop outside of the growth boundary. Develop in, with exceptions, of course. Right. So this is sort of like that, but it's making that rural holding. As soon as you get services, it goes to a service district rather than a holding district for the county anyway to provide utilities. So anyway, that's the last one. But you'll see these in your that section of the code or the comprehensive plan. They just kind of got added in where they were most appropriate and then got added into the implementation table. It's also important because that all gets sent to our consultants and they look at our old, that are doing our new comp plan. They look at the old one and say, what have you done? What haven't you done? Do you want to do these still? And to us and also to the public. So to get those in there also helps with that, but it's gonna make a lot of private developers eligible. And it is a cleanup we should have probably did 2 years ago. Okay.
It's still a public.
Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this? Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one has come forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 22. Consideration with possible action on a request to amend the Green Bay 2022 Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan to include recommendations of the 2020 Green Bay Area Housing Market Study.
Staff's recommending approval of the changes that we highlighted.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a comment. I like that page that you brought forward, you know, with those additions and that. Will the business community and that get a hold of this too? You know, because I think a lot of times with development, you know, there are times where there are roadblocks at times, you know, that developers have gone through, but will something like this get out there to the community?
Yeah, generally we'll share with the home builders. Mainly what we use that for, like with the cottage courts, is when we identify lots that are suitable. The city will contact those owners and then also try to help them develop them. In some cases, our lots might be suitable for those. And then it gives us something to say, hey, the council said this is important. Let's do cottage court here. Let's look at doing cottage court at least. As far as, you know, emailing it out to the business community, probably not.
Probably not. Okay, case by case.
Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you.
So to follow up, you said the council said this is important. When they
When they
accepted.
adopted. They haven't said that yet.
But this goes back to your saying before, they accepted the housing study. But they accepted the study, I assume, does not mean embracing the recommendations as binding on the city yet.
Correct. This would be
And
adopted as
this will
ordinance.
Get them to do so, or challenge them to do so.
Would ask them to. Yep.
Which allows the next comp plan then to build on that without having to deal with that at that point, right?
Correct. And the next year and a half, it allows staff, give us direction to start approaching owners or directing people who come to want to do these types of developments. You know, to find properties that do that. But some of the other things, it's just internal processes. So it allows, you know, Matt, Cheryl to go to their bosses and say, hey, we need to reduce fees. Can we reduce fees? Because that has an impact. That is incoming income for us. But without anything super official, I mean, they're just making a professional recommendation that makes sense. This is one that's actually adopted into code. So it does help that way as well.
Certainly, the more buy-in we can get to these various concepts before we get to the point of the next comp plan, the better, because we know that an awful lot of people in Green Bay really want the traditional single-family home, period. And this makes a significant shift away from that, and I applaud the variety of ways in which it does so.
I love it.
Is that a motion? Sure, that's a motion. So we have to do it. Well, then I move adoption.
Second.
I'm sorry, did I? Is that a motion and a second? Okay, motion, okay, got it, all right. Correct, we were excited about the cottage stuff.
Yeah.
Sid made the motion, okay, all right. All right, we were excited about the picture, I have the pretty
Yeah.
picture, so, okay.
Cool.
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Commissioner Praddick. Any further discussion?
Question for staff. I'm assuming in the pages that weren't included, there's a firm definition of what affordable housing is and isn't. I mean, I see.
There is in the
Somewhere
housing
that's in-
study, but that is also a moving target. So it kind of changes with
Inflation.
the income and inflation. But typically it's 80% or
Area
below area median. Although I have seen some now that is 110% area. Or 140 is still considered.
80 to 120 traditionally is workforce housing.
Right.
And 80 below is affordable. I think that's often what HUD uses.
Yeah, but some of the funds are now opening up to that 120.
Just because if it's recommending the prioritization of these projects, and stuff like that, I mean, there has to be some sort of.
Oh, yeah.
Way you can do that and fall back on and say why you chose to move forward.
Yep, and I believe we would use the HUD defined 80. I would.
Alright, the motion by Commissioner Brimmer, second by Commissioner Craddock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, and that will move forward to the city council for December 19th. Informational director's report.
Considering the beefiness of this meeting, that there's a Packer game going on, I would be more than okay with giving a better, fuller report next time. Right? If you like, or I can speak tonight, your choice.
Look at Ken's eyes, he wants to.
Okay, I guess.
Oh.
I feel like I'm gonna get,
Glare.
right, okay. All right, I guess next, the January 8th sounds great.
You got it.
I have one thing to add, sorry to that. I've seen in the RDA packets, they include that update. Is that something that we could have included in our packet? Could we take a peek at? Yes, that we could peek at before, so we could be tough for questions.
Yeah, we can include it as an attachment to the director's report.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. All right, and then I remember comprehensive plan rewrite project kickoff summary.
Yeah, so I'll be super quick. In October, end of October, beginning of November, consultants came up to Green Bay. They drove around a lot. We showed them everything in the city and a giant fire van. Interesting. But they had two big workshops. One was with the department heads and one was with city leadership, which was the council. And I won't go through, so in your packet is kind of what they went through. Really, it was kind of a hybrid of a SWOT analysis. What's our strengths, what's our weaknesses, but more layperson oriented. And the summary of top issues and concerns were basically 5 items. Address the city's aging infrastructure. We need more housing options, increase population, grow the tax base, and community safety. So those were the top 5 concerns and issues that came out of those 2 meetings, kind of a mesh between the department heads and the elected officials, which were not identical, by the way. So when you read this, you'll see a little bit different. They didn't contrast each other, but they were a little bit different. And so this is sort of the start. Also, the way this is explained in the kickoff, we will be doing what we call do-it-yourself kits. That we can take out as planning staff to the farmers markets, to the neighborhood associations. And also we'll have the kits themselves that we can hand out to people to do. So often, populations don't necessarily want to deal with government employees. They can do their own. So if it's a church group or a whatever, neighborhood association, they could run it on their own or have staff there. The consultants a lot of times don't want staff in these meetings. Because people are more free to speak if they don't think there's, any recourse. You go to a council meeting, it's hard to get people to speak at a council meeting because, worry about the council, they're important people. But if you're just sitting in a basement, hanging out with your neighbors, it's easy to write this stuff down. So that's it. I just wanted to give you an update on that. They are right now, building the website, getting the do-it-yourself kits together. And they're working a lot more with our, all together, I wouldn't call them, outreach consultants, to get all that stuff together. We really wanna, they're also reviewing all of our past plans, which the planners, and I didn't do any of the planners, put it all together. We have, what would you say, 30 plus plans that are cities using. So they're going through those, to incorporate, and then probably in spring is when the outreach stuff is really gonna hit. You don't do a lot of that in the winter. But that's where we are. So it is still moving forward, but not as flashy or loud as you would see it yet. Wait till
Spring. All right, date of the next meeting is January 8th, 2024.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Braddock, second by Commissioner Vinsky, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, see you next year.
Got that win.
Win.